Hi, here we are in another video, and in this video I'm going to show you how to set up Wireguard VPN so that you can connect to your home network remotely from, for example, your mobile phone or a tablet which is connected to one of the 4G or 5G mobile networks. So if you want to know how to do this, keep watching this video and I'll show you how. So here we are in the UniFi Network dashboard. What we first need to do is set up Wireguard in the UniFi Network controller so that it allows clients to connect into our network so that they can access various network devices or just one network device. In this example, I'm going to show you how to connect in via Wireguard VPN so that we can access our Synology NAS and therefore access the shared files remotely. So firstly, you need to make sure that your versions of the software and operating system for your UniFi network are up to date. And in this case, I'm running my UniFi network controller on a UDM Pro. You can of course use some of the other devices provided that they support Wireguard VPN connections. And at the moment I'm using UniFi OS version on the UDM Pro, which is version 3.1.16, and for the UniFi network I'm running version 7.4.162, which is the latest public release version. So what you first need to do is go into your UniFi network controller dashboard, as you'll see I have done now here on screen. So from the UniFi Network Controller dashboard, you need to click on the gear or the cog icon, which is the bottommost icon at the left-hand side menu. Then from that, you need to click on Teleport and VPN. Then once you have done that, you will be presented with the VPN configuration screens. And the one at the top, which is for teleport, we're not actually using this one at the moment, but what we're going to do is click on VPN Server and click on Create New, and so we can set up a Wireguard VPN connection. So under VPN Server, click Create New, and then when the screen pops up with the information for VPN Server, you'll see that the type is set to Wireguard. If it's not, just click on it to highlight it and put the blue box around Wireguard. Then in the name, you can give your VPN server a name. In this case, I'll call it Wireguard VPN. And here you'll see that we have both a private key and a public key. So just leave those as they are at the moment. Don't change them. And in server address, you'll see that it shows IP address, and underneath that it shows auto-defined WAN 1. And also you'll see that it says port. You will see that the port box is actually empty. There's no port number in there at the moment. So under port, we're going to be entering in port 51820. So that's 51820. And under IP address, you'll see that it's auto-defined as WAN 1. If you click the drop down arrow, you may have WAN 2 also in there. So it's up to you to decide which WAN connection you want to assign your Wireguard VPN server to. As I'm only using one WAN, mine is set to auto-defined as WAN 1. If I want to see the IP address, which is allocated to my public internet connection, I can click Enter IP address manually. If I do this, you'll see that I have my public IP address shown in there. Then under Clients, what you will need to do is first add a client so that you can add a client which is allowed to connect to your Wireguard VPN server. So to do this, you need to click Add Client. Just to confirm that you need one client per person or per device. You cannot use the same VPN connection for multiple devices as it causes problems and you may not be able to connect to your VPN server. So we will leave this set to auto-generated, and then in the name I will enter my YouTube name so that it refers to the person who the client refers to. So of course you can enter anything you like in there. You can give a person's name, say Jim, Bob, Claire, Amanda, any name you choose, whichever person it's going to be allocated to for that particular connection. Once you've done that, do not click Add, but you first need to download the configuration file before you click Add. Now you can actually just scan the QR code. So if I click to enlarge it, you'll see that it generates a QR code. Now what you can do is get your person or client, whichever you like to call them, and get them to just scan that QR code, and then this will allow them to download the Wireguard connection information file, which they will need to put into their Wireguard VPN client on their mobile device that they're connected in with. However, I find it easier just to download the configuration file, either zip it with a password or put it into, for example, a cloud drive, which is for that person. Now, just to confirm that the configuration file is different for each person that connects. So you cannot use the same configuration file for more than one person. So in this case, I'm going to download the configuration file, and please note, do not rename the file name. You must keep the file name as it is, otherwise it will not be imported into the Wireguard VPN client, as I've tried this, and if you rename the file, it does not recognize the file as a Wireguard client file. So do not change the name, just save it as it is. If necessary, put it into a subfolder or create a new folder for that person's name so that you know what the file is for. So click Save. Then once you have saved the file, you can then click Add. Then with the Save Your Configuration File or Scan Your QR Code Now window, click Proceed and then click Apply Changes. Or if you have more than one client to add, you would then click Add Client. Just add further clients until you're finished and then click Apply Changes in the bottom right corner. This has now created our VPN server, namely the Wireguard VPN, and it's also added our client. So now that we've done that, so now if we go to our mobile device, and then in this case, I'm showing you on screen now my mobile phone, and it's currently connected to just the 5G network. It's not connected to my local Wi-Fi network. It's connected just to the 4G, 5G mobile network. So in order to test this, you'll need to be connected to your mobile network. So once you've done that and ensured that you're not connected to Wi-Fi, meaning the same Wi-Fi network that your VPN server is running on, we can then proceed to download and install the Wireguard client. So I'm just going to go into the Google Play Store, and then I'm going to download the Wireguard VPN application. Here you'll see it brings up Wireguard, and it's the Wireguard development team, and I'm just going to click Install. This is available for iPhone users and also Android users as well. So you'll see that it's now installed Wireguard VPN, and here's the icon on the mobile phone. So what you then need to do is you need to transfer that configuration file that we created in our UniFi Network controller for our VPN client. So the one that you saved, you need to make sure that it's sent to the person that's going to be connecting to your VPN server so that they can add the file into the Wireguard VPN application on their mobile device. Now I've already done this. I've done it by email, and then I've actually deleted this email straight away and also removed it from trash so that it cannot be used for illegitimate purposes. So what we need to do is open up Wireguard, and then we need to add a tunnel using the button below. So I'll click the plus symbol, and then we're going to import from file or archive. Then you'll see here that we have the file that I've just emailed, which is the wgco a80202.conf file. So now you'll see that it's imported that WG file. So now you'll see under Wireguard on our screen that we have that connection. So if I click on it, you'll see that the name has been called that. What we can actually do is click the plus symbol and then rename our connection. So I'll rename this to Wireguard VPN Home. I'll just call it Wireguard VPN as we're limited to the amount of characters. And then I'll click Save. So now if I go back, you'll see that it's now called Wireguard VPN. So all we need to do to connect to our VPN server is click the symbol and then the message saying allow Wireguard to create a VPN connection. Please make sure this is a trusted app, otherwise your network might be monitored and data could be breached. So we know it's actually legitimate and it's trusted, so we'll click allow. Now you'll see that I'm connected to our Wireguard VPN, and we have allowed IP addresses, and also we have the endpoint, which is the public IP address of our UDM Pro network, and also we have transfer data as well and the last handshake time. So if I go back, you'll see that the VPN connection is still actually running. So we're still actually connected to the Wireguard VPN. So to test that we are connected to our network, we'll open up the ping command. And now what I'm going to do is put in the IP address of my Synology NAS server, which is running on my UniFi network and which has shared folders on it. So this is what we're going to be doing to access our Synology NAS remotely by having the Wireguard VPN connection. Let's just put in the IP address, which you'll see I've done already on screen, and then we'll click ping. And this confirms we're getting replies from our Synology NAS so that we can actually access it from the internet. It's that complete setting up of the Wireguard VPN connection. So obviously I don't want to allow every device on my network to be accessed via my VPN clients. So what we need to do is create some firewall rules which will block this and stop us accessing some devices on the network, apart from, for example, say a Synology NAS with the shared files on it which need to be accessed remotely. With the current setup, it will not block your Wireguard VPN clients from accessing all of your network devices and also your VLANs. So as we don't want the Wireguard VPN clients to access our VLANs and all of our network devices, bar, for example, say a shared file server, and in this case a Synology NAS with shared files on it, what we're going to do is create some firewall rules to block access to our VLANs and network devices apart from a Synology NAS. You can obviously allow any device you want on the network. You just have to change the IP address to the correct one which you want to allow access to from VPN clients. So what we first need to do to create the first firewall rule is to go into profiles, and this will then bring you up to the list of profiles. Now it should by default be highlighted with Ethernet ports, and what you need to do is select IP groups, and then under IP groups you need to click Create New. Then under the profile name we're going to type in RFC 1918. Now the reason for this is that what we're going to be doing is blocking access to all RFC 1918 allocated network groups. Now RFC 1918 is a group of IP addresses which have been defined by all internet authorities as being private IP addresses and which are not used for any public access service on the internet. Now these are being defined as private so that they cannot be used for public internet. Now the first IP address we need to enter. So to do this, under type we need to select IPv4 address stroke subnet. Then on the address bar and in the IPv4 address subnet box we're going to be typing in 192.168.0.0/16. Now this is the first group of IP addresses and subnet that have been defined by RFC 1918 as being only used for private internet services and cannot be used at all for public internet services. So when you've done that, you click Add. Here you'll see that I've just put 2 dots after 192, so I'll just delete that, make sure it's correct now and click Add. Then the second IP address is being defined as only used for private internet services is 172.16.0.0/12 and then click Add, and then the third and final one is 10.0.0.0/8 and then click Add. So there you now should have 3 addresses listed as 192.168.0.0/16, 172.16.0.0/12 and 10.0.0.0/8. Now you may ask why we are entering all 3 addresses, even for example you don't use say 172 or 10 IP address ranges on your private network. Well, this is to ensure that, for example, my Home Assistant server for some reason has more than one IP address allocated to it, and this is done in the actual configuration of the actual system and the virtual machine application it's running on, and it uses some 172 IP addresses. So that's why we are entering all 3 to be blocked. But if you can be sure, 100% sure, that all of your network devices do not use 172 or 10 IP addresses, then you can omit those if you want from this RFC 1918 group that we're creating. But to be official and to go by the book, as it were, we're entering all 3 just to be sure and just to complete the RFC 1918 group correctly as it is. So once you've done that, enter those or just the whichever range you want, you can click Apply Changes. This has now created an RFC 1918 IP address group. Now, What we also need to do is create a new IP address group for our Wireguard VPN. Now the reason why we're creating an IP group and not an actual network is because for VPN connections in UniFi you have to create them as IP groups and they're not set up as networks, as for example showing you now we have virtual networks. They're not listed under virtual networks, they're actually listed under IP groups for VPN connections. That's why we're creating the groups here and not just adding a new network. So to create the first allow group, which we want to allow Wireguard to use, we need to click create new. Then what we need to do is create a new profile for Wireguard VPN. Now of course we don't know the IP address at the moment of our Wireguard VPN and the IP address group that our VPN clients are using. So to find out what this is, if we go back to and click on teleport and VPN, and then for VPN server select our Wireguard VPN, you will see that we have the interface IP, and also below this grayed out we have the gateway and subnet. Now you will see that the gateway and subnet is 192.168.2.1 and its network size is /24. So now that we know the gateway IP address and the network size for our Wireguard VPN, we can go back to profiles and then click create new, and then under the profile name we can enter the name of our Wireguard VPN, and under the type we need to select IPv4 address stroke subnet, and then in the address we're going to enter 192.168.2.0/24. Now this 192.168.2, if you recall, is part of the gateway IP address for our VPN server. So what we're entering is the 192.168.2 bit, and then the 1 bit replaced with 0, and then for the network size, if you recall, it was a /24 network, so we're entering 192.168.2.0/24. If your VPN server IP address is 192.168. whatever, you need to enter, say for example, instead of 2 you would enter 4, 5, 6, whichever IP address. So once you have entered that IP address, you click add, and then you can click apply changes. Then what we need to do to allow access to, just for example, our Synology NAS, we now need to create another IP group for this. So click create new, and then under the profile name we'll call it Synology NAS. So what this is doing now is creating an IP group just for our Synology NAS. So for this we will select IPv4 address stroke subnet. I need to enter the exact IP address of my Synology NAS, and in this case it is 192.168.1.5, and I know this because it has a static IP address assigned to it of 192.168.1.5. So what you need to do here is enter the IP address of the device which you want to allow your Wireguard VPN clients to access when they're connected to your network. So in this case I've entered the IP address. I do not need to enter / and the subnet because we're entering a specific IP address and not just a network address. So once you have done that, you've entered the IP address or all other IP addresses which you want to allow network devices to be accessed by VPN clients. You then click apply changes. Now that we've created the groups, we now need to go in and create the firewall rules. So to do this, we need to click on Firewall and Security, and then under the Firewall Rules section, we need to click on Create Entry. Then for the type, we need to select this as LAN in. Then under the description, we need to type in block inter VLAN traffic. So type in block inter VLAN traffic. Now what this first rule is going to do is block our VPN clients from accessing all of our other VLANs and networks on our UniFi network. This includes blocking, in my case, the Synology NAS access as well, because we'll be allowing Synology NAS access with a new rule which we'll be creating shortly. So moving on, we need the rule applied before predefined rules, and then under the action we need to select drop. Under IPv4 protocol you leave this as all, and then under the source and for source type this will be port IP group. So under IPv4 address group, click on the arrow and select RFC 1918. Then scroll down to destination section, and for destination type it again is port IP group, and then under IPv4 address group select again RFC 1918. Then click Apply Changes. So that completes creating our first firewall rule, which will block our VPN clients from accessing any of our other networks, including VLANs set up on our UniFi Network controller. So to test this, what we're going to do is I'll go back to my mobile phone screen, which I'll bring up on screen, and we will enable our VPN. Then if I go back to the home screen and bring up the ping IP command program, and then for example if I type in the IP address of my Synology NAS and click ping, you'll see that it's starting to ping the IP address of my Synology NAS, and at the moment it's actually request timeout, so it's not actually seeing my Synology NAS, but this actually confirms that our blocking rule is actually being applied correctly. So that blocking rule that we've just created for RFC 1918 IP address groups is actually working correctly. So now that we've done that bit, we need to then create the firewall rule to allow access to our Synology NAS. So to do this we need to create two firewall rules. So as you'll see, we're back to the list of firewall rules on my UDM Pro. Now what we need to do is create a rule to allow our VPN clients to access the Synology NAS, and in turn for the Synology NAS to reply with data and information to the VPN client. So this means setting up two firewall rules. So what we need to first do under firewall rules again is click Create Entry. Then for the type we select LAN in, and then under the description we'll type in allow Wireguard to NAS. Rule applied is before predefined rules, and the action is accept. Under the source and for source type you need to select port IP group, and then under IPv4 address group select Wireguard VPN. Then under destination and destination type should be port IP group again, and then the IPv4 address group should be Synology NAS. Then click Apply Changes. Then we now need to create the third and final firewall rule which will allow our Synology NAS to reply with information to our Wireguard client. So again, click Create Entry, then for the type select LAN in, and the description is allow NAS to Wireguard. So this is the opposite to the one we've just created, which was allow Wireguard to NAS. So this one is allow NAS to Wireguard. The rule is applied before predefined rules, and the action is accept. And under the source, and for source type should be port IP group, and then under the IPv4 address group we need to select Synology NAS, and then move down to destination, and destination type should be port IP group, and then the IPv4 address group should be Wireguard VPN. So this is saying that the source is the Synology NAS and the destination is the Wireguard VPN. Then once you have done that, click Apply Changes. This has then taken you back to the list of firewall rules, and what we need to do is click on LAN under Firewall Rules, and you will see at the moment we have the drop rule before the two accept rules. Now, as it is at the moment, the accept rules will not work because they are below the drop rule. So the rule for drop is the first one. So what it's going to do is block all traffic before it even gets to the accept rules. So this drop rule is above it, so it's going to override the two below accept rules. So what we need to do is move the accept rules above drop so that it allows it before being dropped and blocked. So to do this, if we hover over our two firewall rules, which is for allow Wireguard to NAS, you'll see that there's a little block of dots. So what you need to do is click, hold and drag that rule above the drop rule, and also the allow NAS to Wireguard, the same one, so bring it above the block rule. So it should be allow Wireguard to NAS, allow NAS to Wireguard, and then block into VLAN traffic. So that is the order from top to bottom that the three rules should be listed in. So now that we've done those three firewall rules, we'll go back and test that we can now ping our Synology NAS. So if we click on ping, you'll see that we are now getting a reply from our Synology NAS being connected to our Wireguard VPN. So this confirms that the pings are being sent to our Synology NAS, and also that the replies are coming back from our Synology NAS, which is working because of those two final firewall rules we created. So that confirms that we can now access our Synology NAS from the internet using our Wireguard VPN client connection. So that completes the video. If you have any comments or questions, please do leave a comment in the comment section. Don't forget to hit the like and also the bell notification icon so that you get reminded of future videos, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button as well, as most people I find watch my videos but don't actually subscribe. So it would help the channel out greatly if you could also hit the subscribe button. It's actually free, it doesn't cost anything, and hopefully you'll then enjoy some further videos which I produce every week or so. Thanks for watching, take care, and keep a lookout for further videos coming up real soon.